again. It's been so long since you've been here. You had me thinking you were dead. How's your taxpayer mansion, Mr. Politician? It's good to see you again. It's been so long since you've been here. You had me thinking you were dead. How's your taxpayer mansion?
Joining us on today's edition of Unity Train on Unity 93.3 FM and TV. We are reaching you live from the city of Jos, Plateau State, Nigeria, the home of peace and tourism. Beatrice Adamu Iji remains my name, your anchor on this wonderful program on radio and of course on TV. And I have on the house this morning an in-house analyst and a political scientist, Mr. Shaibu Doro is with me in the studio. And of course, don't forget, today is Monday, the 13th day in the month of November 2023. And so I would love to say good mornings to Shaibu.
Thank you, Kobe, and good morning, viewer and listener. Thank you so much for staying tuned. A beautiful Monday morning. We look forward to an engaging interaction as usual. Thank you for always being there.
Yes, of course. I just cannot hide my excitement looking at the fact that a wedding was attended by people from all religions in Jos, Plateau State, Nigeria. And I would love to say kudos. The narrative is gradually changing for good. And so these are some of the stories we always want to emphasize, because we've not seen this for quite some time. If it's coming back for us again, then it's something to always talk about it, so that we can change the narrative, so that we can also give another impressions. We can also, help people to understand that Plateau is safe for investment, okay? And so, Doro, you may want to say just a word there, during the preparatory segment of Unity Train, during City Reports, Mainesara from Rikos here in Jos, Plateau State, Nigeria, called to inform that during the weekend he witnessed something that excites him the most, and so he called during City Reports to talk about it. A wedding, he said, at Rikos was being attended by Christians and Muslims, so it's something probably he has not seen for quite a while. And so seeing it now gives him some kind of joy that he feels. Why not call and then share on radio? Definitely. And I feel also that it's something we have to also talk about here. So we don't just talk about when things are wrong. We also talk when they are good.
When things are actually positive.
When they're positive.
So well, I think I was actually in the studio when he was sharing that particular story, and I could actually see your mood too, and how excited you were to actually hear that. And I think would be the fact that these things are happening actually means that confidence and trust is gradually being regained, right, and restored, as far as relations among Plateau people, are actually concerned. It's something we need to be able to sustain, going forward. This is the Plateau has always been known, to be the home of peace and tourism. And I think one of the reasons we used to be, or we still are, probably the home of peace and tourism is the fact that the state has stood out, as far as, ethno-religious tolerance is actually concerned. Before a few years back when, certain incidents actually, happened, Plateau State used to be the most hospitable state in Nigeria. People will always say that Plateau State is a miniature Nigeria because of its post-cosmopolitan nature. Some people will say it is the north of the south and the south of the north. It's because there's no identity, there's no culture, there's no ethnicity that is not represented in Plateau State. This is what has given Plateau State its unique nature, and then coupled with its tropical weather, and the friendly nature of the people, it's a safe haven. It's a place where, before now, everybody used to love to visit. And when we hosted Masani Moazu sometimes here ago on Unity Train, he did say something very interesting about certain, historical antecedents of Plateau State. He did say that even when the colonial masters actually came to Nigeria, Plateau State was actually their favorite destination. You understand, even when it was time to leave Nigeria after the dethronement of the colonial, superstructure, those who were actually in Plateau State, the colonialists who were in Plateau State never even wanted to leave because they were loving the weather, they were enjoying the clement weather, the hospitable nature of the people, and every, the serene nature, the tourist nature of the state, and every other thing that, God has given, a Plateau State. This is the issue. But then all of a sudden, one thing led to another, and then the consequences could only better be imagined. But I'm glad that today, Muslims and Christians are beginning to actually trust each other and beginning to tell themselves that, look, at the end of the day, we are all key actors, we are all partners in progress as far as the Plateau project is concerned. And I think that is something we need to be able to sustain going forward.
Yes, of course, a Plateau like you have established already, Mr. Toro, that Plateau is actually, some would say the melting pot of every ethnic nationality. You have every ethnic nationality represented on the Plateau, particularly in Jos City. And so we have our own part to play. We have our role to, to look into, to make sure we also participate in the effort of building peaceful coexistence. And again, we will never stop talking about the need for us to play our parts in order to ensure peaceful coexistence continue, to reign on the Plateau. And at this point, let's see what we have as issues trending on our national dailies. And we begin with this one coming from the Daily Trust. It says, Ododo declared winner of Kogi polls. Opposition parties kick.
Elections.
And you see, Mr. Doro, do you think, I doubt much if there will ever be any elections that opposition will not keep. But that is the beauty of having, choices to make of which political party or candidate to support when it comes to elections. And again, another beauty of democracy is when you feel aggrieved and you feel there is something you seem not to appreciate or like in the process of becoming, a winner, declared winner. Then you challenge in court.
Definitely.
But most will say, okay, if you don't like it, let's meet in court. That too is becoming an issue to underline. Really so you say, let's meet in court. It's like you have a plan already.
Yeah, I think that, those on a lighter note could be, I think somebody has said that, Nigerian politicians are too litigious. They just love to go to court, and sometimes even where there are no genuine issues to make, even where there are no genuine cases to make in court, they still want to, rush to court, sometimes probably just to give the winner a bumpy ride, and probably, just to, massage or exercise some ego, and things like that. Well, like we have always said, we do understand that, losing an election is not easy to take, because it's one thing that actually requires some sort of, financial and emotional investment and all of that, So losing it is not usually easy, But then at the end of the day, there can always be, only one winner. And so if in the course of the contest you don't, scale through, you can always give it another try, another time. And then I think we should be, by now, we should have gone past this, primordial. I mean, we should have gone past this, pedestrian tendencies of, always wanting to go to court to challenge things that are ordinarily not even challengeable. Well, there are cases where, people go to court to, make genuine cases and things like that, because we do know that even as we speak, the electoral culture in Nigeria has yet to outgrown, certain retrogressive tendencies, vote buying, electoral violence, thuggery, and all other forms of anti-democratic tendencies and things like. We have yet to outgrow that. But I think also we can't give ourselves a tap in the back, because we are making, a progress gradually as far as the democratic as well as the electoral culture in Nigeria is concerned. So there are cases where people go to court, for genuine reasons and things like that. But we also do know that there are times when people just decide to go to court for the fun of it, just to massage and exercise their ego and things like that. This is the issue. So we look forward to that time when politicians will be courageous and brave and open-minded enough to say, look, well, it didn't work in our favor. Congratulations to the winner. Let's forge ahead from here, and things like that. But that is just on, on a different note. Now back to the Kogi, Bayelsa, Imo issues.
Yes.
Now, of course, over the weekend there were elections in 3 states, off-cycle elections, in 3 states, specifically Imo, Bayelsa, and Kogi. And as far as Kogi and Imo are concerned, winners have already been declared, in those states. Of course, as at, last night, the results from, Bayelsa, were still being collated, and we still wait to see, what's going to happen. But of course, as far as what we have been able to stumble on is concerned, of course, Duoye of the PDP, is actually in the lead in most parts of, Bayelsa State, where election results had already been collated, and assessed. And of course, political actors, opposition parties in that state are already kicking. They're already calling for the suspension or even outright cancellation of election results in some part of that state. And that's exactly what you were talking about, Kogi. You were actually saying that, it remains to be seen if there will ever come a point in time in Nigeria's history where politicians will say, well, it didn't work in our favor, let's forge ahead. This is the issue. In Kogi State too, of course, in Kogi State, of course, Usman Ahmed Ododo of the APC, who apparently is, the incumbent, protege, Yahya Bello, has been declared winner. He won the election, according to report, by 446,237 votes to defeat, his 2 major challengers, specifically Dino Melai of the PDP, who polled 46,362 votes, and then, his closest challenger, the second runner-up in the person of Murtala Ajaka of the SDP, who polled 259,000 and 52 votes. This is the issue. So by implication, Usman Ahmed Ododo of the APC came first, and then, Murtala Ajaka of the SDP came second, and then, of course, Dino Melai of the PDP came third, with 46,000 votes or thereabout. And of course, the 2, leading candidates, of course, Dino Melai and Ajaka Murtala of the SDP and PDP respectively, are already kicking against, the results of the election, because according to them, of course, elections did not even hold, in Kogi State and things like that. According to Murtala Ajaka, of course, elections, according to him, there were, the election, was rigged by, or was actually marred by issues of violence, issues of rigging, irregularities here and there. In fact, according to both of them, there were, polling units where, the beavers were, the beavers machines were not even used, accreditations were done manually, and all of those things. And of course, there were allegedly places where, pre-filled elections were even discovered, even before the commencement of elections and things like that. So these are the allegations. Well, it remains to be seen what the electoral umpire actually does with these allegations. But at the moment, what we know is that, a winner has already emerged, and then, the other issues will become legal matters, which will be taken up in the tribunals and things like that. This is the issue. But of course, could be, the issue of Kogi State, I think, is quite unique in a lot of respect, and all of that. Of course, if you will recall, if our viewers and listeners will recall, Kogi State is one state, that has never even had, because even when I was listening to, opinions and commentaries and analysis on Kogi and other states where, off-cycle elections actually were taking place, opinions actually have it that the issue of Kogi was quite unique, for many reasons and things like that. In the first place, the traditional oppressors, or those who have been at the helm of affairs in Kogi State since 1999, before, the emergence of Yahya Bello from another tribe in 2016, were actually the Igalas, who, like I mentioned, are the traditional oppressors, in quote, because, of course, the first governor of the state, Abubakar Audu, who held sway between 1999 and 2003, was actually Igala. And then the person who succeeded him too, Ibrahim Idris, who had a stint, I think a year or so, I think he had a stint between 2003 and then 2008. He also was Igala, and things like that. And then the person who succeeded, well, at some point in time, the deputy governor of Ibrahim Idris, talking about Clarence Olafemi, actually had a stint for a few months and thereabout. This is the issue. But then after him, we had a certain Captain Idris Wada, who also, was Igala and things like that. And then, of course, Captain Idris Wada, when his tenure expired, I think in 2000 and is it 2016 or thereabout, elections, 2015 or thereabout. Now elections had to take place, to produce a successor, for Captain Idris Wada. But then, of course, late Abubakar Audu, who was the, pioneer governor of the state in 1999 and things like that, actually, eventually died, even before elections were concluded. And so it became a serious constitutional logjam, because efforts had to be made to sort out who was going to succeed Abubakar Audu and things like that. And then eventually one thing led to another, and then Yahya Bello, who is from Ibera, the Ibera tribe, actually came as governor and things like that. And now his successor, the person who was just won this election, is also from the Ibera tribe. Talking about Yahya Usman Adodo, he's also of the Ibera, stock and things like that. Apparently, and so you can see, ethnic and religious sentiment actually played a role as far as the election was concerned and things like that. So these are the issues.
But do you think this is based on some kind of nepotism, or you feel it's based on meritocracy? Like, does he really merit this? Is he like a capable person, or sometimes too, Doro? When you choose to have someone that is, you have some affiliates, maybe like by tribe or religion, sometimes people feel it's because of the religion or ethnic nationality or identity that you choose to have him succeed you. But it's not all the time. Probably because he's capable to, based on what Yahya feels. Maybe this man is the most,
Well, even if Yahya Bello may have considered, merit and fitness for purpose and things like that, I think I can also say confidently and without mincing words and without fear of contradiction that primordial sentiments must actually have played a role. And that is why I went down memory lane, and things like that, just to give us some sort of foundation to be able to understand why this is actually happening. Like I did mention, the Igalas had held swear for many, many years, talking about Abubakar Audu, Ibrahim Idris, Captain Idris Wada, and all of that. But then destiny and providence, actually threw up Yahya Bello, who is from the Ebira tribe. And the Ebira tribe had always been looking for an opportunity to stake a claim too, as far as the control of the soul of Kogi State is concerned. And then destiny, through those constitutional crises occasioned by the sudden death of, Abubakar Audu, actually, brought Yahya Bello as, governor and things. So Yahya Bello might just be feeling, well, it's time to, be succeeded by a fellow Ebera, because they had loomed in the dark for too long. And so it's just time to give another fellow Ebera an opportunity and things like that. Now, Yakubu Murtala Ajaka of the SDP is from the Igala stock. You understand, but this time around he didn't have his way. Probably because, Yahya Bello felt, look, it has to be a fellow Ebera and things like. And then again, like I did mention, the Kogi people had never had a Christian as governor. The only Christian who held sway, I think, on a temporary basis, was actually Clarence Olafemi, who, acted, who held sway in an acting capacity and things like that. So, Abubakar Audu, a Muslim, Ibrahim Idris, a Muslim, Idris Wada, a Muslim, Yahya Bello, a Muslim, and now Ahmed Usman Ododo, a Muslim. So religion also played its own role in the election. So I agree with you. It might not always be the case, but in the case of Kogi, I can bet you, Kogi, that religion, ethnicity and other such primordial considerations actually played a role, and I played a role in determining who was going to be governor and things like that. But we look forward. Somebody said that this, attachment to primordial sentiment in Kogi State, as well as even other parts of the state, might just be why Kogi State too has not been able to make the best of, its democratic experimentation and things like that. And I think that seems to make some sense to me, Kobi. As long as people will continue to, make electoral choices on the basis of such primordial considerations, I think we never will make any headway. I hope that although Usman will be able to turn around the narrative, because look, Kogi State is still underdeveloped when you compare it to other states of the Federation. Kogi State is still far behind. Despite the 8 years, well, there might be a few piecemeal issues here and there that, Usman Yahya might be able to talk about, but I think that Kogi is still backward, democratically and politically and economically speaking.
And I think, Mr. Shabudoro, basically what we're saying on this platform is about, it's not about which tribe or ethnic nationality is actually leading or has been leading.
Definitely.
But it is whether there is development. It is whether the people are actually benefiting from all that we have as democracy.
Definitely.
Yes, if all of these things are in place and the people who are in Kogi, are benefiting, nobody will even care to ask who is actually there. It's not, well, this issue is not just about Kogi. So if at all you have been, leading a particular state for a very long time, and then we people can actually, form, those who witness development, massive development, continuous development. Nobody will care from which religion.
I agree with
nobody
you.
will care from which tribe.
I agree with you.
It's not
I
about
agree
that.
with you 100%. Even talking about Nigeria as a whole.
Yes.
I think the one thing that has always triggered and probably sustained, this mutual distrust and suspicion among Nigerians is lack of confidence.
Yes.
People feel, well, Muslims feel, well, if it's a fellow Muslim, we will be better off, and things like that. If it's a fellow Christians feel, they will be better off. This is the issue. And then you could see, even in the build up to the, presidential election, you could actually see, the fear, the skepticism, the anxiety among, I think, the minority Christians in northern Nigeria. You understand this is the issue. And I think that you wouldn't blame the northern Christians for feeling what they felt, because, I think it is not wrong to say that, northern Christians have, to some extent, not been given a fair, advantage as far as, at the political landscape in northern Nigeria is concerned. And so that was why they felt, we are not comfortable with this whole idea of Muslim ticket and things like that. This is the issue. So a lot of times when people express a skepticism or fear or anxiety or uncertainty, sometimes it's because they feel that they are not likely to get, a fair deal if a different person, actually is in charge. But like you rightly mentioned, if we could have a situation where, and I always say this could be, if I'm a Muslim, as president and things like that, I will make sure that the Christians under me are probably even more comfortable, so that they will be able to trust me.
I think we saw this during Good Luck's
Jonathan, and then if I'm a Christian, I'll make sure that the Muslims under me are maybe even a little more comfortable, just so that they can have some confidence and trust and things like that.
Okay.
This is the issue.
Okay.
So I hope that the time will come when we'll be able to achieve.
Yes, what we're saying actually is that let there be development, massive development. It doesn't matter who is leading at a point or the other. Okay, at this point, let's just see very quickly what we have on the nation. It says Israel Hamas war. Okay, condemn Hamas, not Israel. Netanyahu tells Macron.
Over the weekend, could be Emmanuel Macron actually condemned, the bombings that are going on, in Gaza, where at the moment, I think, according to reports, thousands of civilians, mostly women and children, have actually been killed and all of that. And so Macron was actually saying, as a community, as an international community, we do appreciate the fact that Israel has a right to self-defense and things like that. And I think, in international affairs, this principle of reciprocity has normally been used as a deterrent strategy and things like that. So when a country actually aggressively, attacks another country, that country has a right to defend itself and probably even retaliate that attack and things like that. But again, the disproportionate use of force on the part of, Israel is not acceptable. And I think I have kept saying this. Hamas was wrong to have actually attacked Israel in that manner, because I think before then there was some moment of peace and things like that. But then all of a sudden Hamas decided to, for whatever reason, attack Israel, where about 1,000 people were killed and 200 hostages were actually taken. This is the issue. And then of course every other person would have been compelled to, want to retaliate and things like that. So that is understandable. But at the moment, I think the killing of 10,000 civilians, in retaliation against the killing of 1,000 people or the abduction of 200 hostages in Israel by Hamas is not acceptable, could be. And I think Israel under Netanyahu has continued to, verbally reiterate commitment to protecting, the lives of civilians in Gaza and things like that. But it tells that 10,000 people that have been killed so far are not actually, combatants. They are not soldiers. They are civilians. This is the issue. So I think I appreciate the fact that, Emmanuel Macron of France is coming out to say, look, it is time to be orderly. It is time to be civil. It is time to respect the sanctity of human lives. Yeah, you have, been able to exact revenge on, Hamas and Palestine and things like that. But it's time to cease fire because you can't continue to kill people, in thousands in the name of retaliation and things like that. And even if you are saying that Hamas must be demilitarized, Hamas must be, de-radicalized, and things like that. I think, it will take some dialogue, some sort of talking, some sort of negotiation, some sort of compromise, right? Some sort of, ground shifting for that to be achieved. But if you continue to kill people and then you're talking about, demilitarization and things like that, it's not actually going to happen. So I think Israel must be called to order, right? The killings of civilians in thousands, is not actually acceptable because it will actually mean that Israel has actually crossed the red line. It is going overboard in actually exerting revenge, and it's something that the world owes a duty to actually, condemn.
Okay, maybe we end on this one, which is a very sad one. Say YPP chairman's murdered in Anambra, and we just have a minute, so maybe you just express what we feel as a platform as regard this, and then
we've been talking about off-cycle elections, and the other issues arising from that and all of that, and of course even before now, we had always talked about the thuggish, the violent, the acrimonious tendencies that have always characterized inter-party, and intra-party relations in Nigeria, and the need for us to, as a political entity, be able to outgrow that, in order to give peace a chance, because at the end of the day, democracy can't thrive in the face of acrimony, violence, conflicts, thuggery, and things like that. Now, the YPP chairman, in Anambra State, his name is given as Inze Joe Mogali. That is the name of the YPP chairman who was said to have been killed somewhere in Nanka One in Onumba North local government area of Anambra State. Okay. And this came, on the heels of, an appeal court order, an order, of the appeal court, to conduct a rerun in 13 polling units in Nanka Ward 1 between Princess Chimwe, Nabufe of the YPP, who was declared winner of the February 25 election, as well as her, opponent chief, Okudili Ezenwako of the PDP. In other words, the appeal court ordered a rerun in 13, polling units of Ninka 1 ward in Anambra State between these two leading candidates and things like that. But then, all of a sudden, after a meeting with some stakeholders in that ward, this particular person was said to have been murdered. It might have something to do with, the sort of things we're talking about. Some people felt probably they didn't want the election to hold, and so decided to just go overboard to, do what we ordinarily would not want to see.
I think we'll just put a stop here for this segment. Thank you so much, our listener and our viewer. We'll go on a short break. We'll be coming back, and when we do, it's going to be a nice time. So stay tuned, I beg.
Mr. Politician, it's good to see you again. It's been so long since you've been here. You had me thinking you were dead. How's your taxpayer mansion? How was your
Unity. Unity TV.
Get ready to be entertained and inspired by the incredible stories around the globe. Don't miss out on the excitement.
Hello at Work is an ultimate TV program that brings to you the interesting stories and daily happenings worldwide. Join us Mondays and Thursdays 10 a.m. as we dive into the daily happenings and stories. Tune in and stay. Say hello to the world as you bring in your ideas, as it is a perfect blend of entertainment and information. Get ready to stay up to date while being entertained.
The Financial Services Regulation Coordinating Committee, FSRCC, in collaboration with the National Broadcasting Commission, NBC, wishes to draw the attention of the public to the worrisome increase in the activities of illegal financial operators, IFOs, which threaten public trust and the stability of the Nigerian financial system. The FSRCC and NBC hereby advises the general public to refrain from dealing with unlicensed financial operators who deceive individuals with unrealistically high investment returns. Make sure to verify the licensing status of such companies and schemes on this website. To report any suspicions of illicit financial activities, call 0700 225 5226, 0800 225 5226, or +234 817 665 6273. Let's work together to uphold the integrity of Nigeria's financial system. Announcer, FSRCC.
Mr. Politician, it's good to see you again. It's been so long since you've been here. Yeah.
All right, I'm so glad to be in the studio of Unity 93.3 FM, Jos Plateau State, Nigeria. Beatrice Adamuiji remains my name, the anchor of Unity Trend this morning. And don't forget, today is the 13th day in the month of November 2023. And of course, in the studio, it has been Mr. Shoaibu Toro, an in-house analyst and a political scientist. And this segment is that segment with which we would bring up a topic and so we discuss. And so we cannot do this without having a guest with whom we will deal with the topic. And so in the studio this morning, I'm so honored to have a legal practitioner that based in Nigeria, of course, a community leader and a one-time SUG president, University of Jos. I am talking about someone who remains an advocate of good governance. I'm talking about Barrister Sam Talks. He's in the studio. He's a friend and a family member, not only to myself and Doro, but of course to the entire management of Unity 93.3 FM. He's in the studio. Barrister, good morning.
Good morning, Colby. Good morning, Doro. Good morning, viewers and listeners.
It's been a while. We've not been seeing you, but of course, somehow off camera we have been checking on each other. Yes. But you belong to our viewer and our listener, not only to us in the studio, and so that is why we have to say it this way, so that our listener and viewer will feel that which you are to them.
Thank you very much.
All right.
I must confess, could be that Barrister Sam is looking like the INEC chairman. So when he walked in, I thought we had Professor Mahmoud, and all of that.
Yes,
yeah, I think I love the outfit.
Thank you very much.
And I think
you are looking good too.
Well, I appreciate that. But kudos to Madam for prescribing. I know she must have done this prescription and all of that. Yeah.
Yes, of course, Madam must have been in the picture, and she probably must have done that, and that is why we cannot do without women, okay? But some would say it's when you have a lot of women input that it becomes unbearable. But for now, as far as it concerns Barrister Sam Talks, we still go with the fact that give women all that belongs to them. Yes, of course, viewer and our listener, at this point in time, let's just go straight to see what we have as a topic. And of course, we have seasoned or off-cycle elections, and it has been going on for some reasons. Some general elections are taken at the same time, but for some few other states in the country, you would have them at other time. And so that's what we'll be looking at. And we have it this way, that it's off-cycle elections in Nigeria, matters arising. And so Barrister, being a professional, being someone whom has not only been a professional, but an active practicing legal practitioner, so to say, if you permit me, is in the studio. And so he's the right person to talk about this thing. And so let's just begin by what do we say that is off-season or off-cycle elections so that we from there
take off?
That's a very good question. Off-cycle elections has its basis in the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, specifically Section 180, subsection 2 of the 1999 Constitution as amended, has prescribed a quadrennial term for office, especially for governors. It means that after 4 years, it is expected that elections is being conducted for any executive arm of government, especially at the state level. I would say that that 4 years term is determined on the day the governor took oath of office. So if let's assume this is 2023, it is expected that after 4 years, another oath of office should be taken by the provisions of the Constitution of Nigeria. So specifically, there are lots of reasons why off-cycle elections have emerged. And basically, it's because of pronouncements of courts. You find out that either for non-compliance with the provisions of the Electoral Act, as it then was 2010, 2006, all the Electoral Acts, if the court decides to rule specifically that the person at the time of the elections was not qualified, or as any reason can come up, but usually the courts have made pronouncements in respect to issues of tenure of office, especially for governors. But it's a little bit different in the aspect of the legislators. The legislators in the provisions of Section 64 as well as Section 105 of the 1999 Constitution clearly state that one is different from the executive arm of government, because it says the National Assembly stands dissolved after 4 years. So you see, whether the court rules that this person is supposed to be the person who is coming in new will take over from that person. So it's a little bit different. That's why we don't have off-cycle elections in respect to
National
Assembly members and legislators generally. So I would clearly say that off-cycle elections is just a simple term that refers to a season where elections is conducted outside the prescribed period of time, maybe probably within the 4 years that election is supposed to be conducted. Court might rule and elections need to be conducted, because let's assume the governor of Plateau State takes oath of office on May 29, 2003, and something happens peradventure as a result of court ruling and order that elections need to be conducted again. It starts counting from the time the governor takes oath of office. So you see, it means that
Barrister sir,
yes,
if I've spent a year as governor,
yes,
for example, and I hope I become governor someday, inshallah.
Look forward to that.
So amen. Now, if I spend a year as governor, and then something happens, or maybe like you mentioned, legal issues and constitutional matters, and all of that,
yes,
and then maybe a different person comes on board,
yes,
in my place,
yes,
right? Because we've seen such instances.
yes.
Does it then mean that the 1 year that I will already have spent in office will be null and void in the eyes of the law, and so the counting begins from the time that the next person actually assumes office? How is this?
Yes, it's a very good question. The Constitution of Nigeria is supreme. Like I said earlier on, if the Constitution prescribes a particular way a thing should be done, it means it has to be done that way.
Yes.
So if that 1 year you have spent in office, as far as in the eyes of the law, the person who took oath of office at the time after that 1 year, it starts counting for that person from the time he took the oath of office. So it means from a lot of analysis, from different points of view, people are beginning to look at the need the Constitution should be amended in such a way that we don't have these off-season elections, because they are becoming one too many.
Definitely.
So many reasons. And like you've rightly said, that 1 year that you have spent, it means what actions that have been taken at that period of 1 year still stands. It still stands as executive order. If you've made an executive order, it still stands. So it means it's the person who is coming after you starts counting from that time he took the oath of office.
Wow.
So So that will then mean that that person is going to spend 4 years.
4 years, definitely.
Besides the 1 year that
the
other person will already.
Definitely.
Barrister, sir, what about salaries paid to that other person? Questions have this on a latter note, but I feel it's something we should bring up here.
Very well.
Sometimes people will say, well, if the tenure of if the the tenure of a particular person, or if the election of a particular person is nullified for whatever reason, then of course all the salaries and entitlements that person will have enjoyed will also have become null and void, and so the person will have to actually repay all those monies.
Yes,
is that true?
That's where I'm heading at. Initially, the court doesn't used to look at these issues. Once that 1 year, you've spent 1 year, decisions taken, salaries being paid, but recently I think the court is beginning to look at taxpayers' monies that have been expended as a result of probably the person was not qualified at the time of the conduct of that elections, and the court is beginning to order that. I've seen for National Assembly a couple of cases where the courts have declared that the person who have stayed in that office, knowing too well, for instance, if the person was an ex-convict and it was he forwarded false documents to INEC, the court is beginning to look at those circumstances. If you know that you are not qualified, you shouldn't have put yourself in the public domain for elections. So the court is now declaring that such persons, all the monies, all the salaries that have been paid should be refunded. So you see, it's going to curtail. It has started curtailing a little some of this. People who are not qualified, who have gotten into government, and who maybe they got elected on the platform that they were not qualified at the time of the elections. So I feel that apart from the courts doing that, it will be very sacrosanct that the National Assembly and the National Assembly should specifically start looking at this aspect that you've just mentioned, that those actions or those salaries that were being paid should be refunded. So that if not, it's really going to be refunded.
Because people will always feel, well, even if it's just a year, I would have, like they will say in Munchobanza, would have been like a windfall, and things like that.
Yes. I really, like what you just said, I heard someone saying recently, House of Assembly member whose elections was quashed at the tribunal, saying that after all, even if they take it over now, he has collected the car, the car that was supposed to be for the seat, and all other those other documents. So it's actually true. Some of our politicians have a very wrong mindset in some of this issues.
Okay, Barrister, let's look at what you have as a take concerning these seasons elections or off-cycles elections. Do you think this is really helping? Is it like something you would prefer for Nigeria to continue? Now we have just the Kogi Sendimo. Since now is a constitutional issue, it means also that probably, who knows, we could have more than 4 or 5 and so on and so on.
Yes, there's a couple of them, Edo, Ondo, all of those
become seasonal
off-cycle elections.
Yes. So how?
Personally, my opinion has been that there is need to harmonize these off-cycle elections so that it goes with the general elections, as the case may be. But another aspect to it recently, when we got discussing with someone, I've discovered that if you look at the elections, the off-cycle elections, there's so much concentration of security in those areas during elections. But but in general elections, the security operatives are overwhelmed. That is why in some polling units you find out that there are polling units that even ad hoc staff of INEC go there and the policemen are not there. So based on our discussion with that person, I now said it would be more fair if we have elections by zones. Looking at the May 29th as a day of swearing in, it will be very good that you have from North Central, you have from Northeast, Northwest, just within the period at which, before the May 29th, before the swearing in,
all the zones must
have conducted elections. And litigation, in fact, it reduces the pressure on the judiciary.
Definitely.
Because if you do for North Central or for the northern part of the country, you will discover that litigation would have been on. Then the next zone before the date of swearing in. So personally, my opinion has been that off-cycle elections, even though if you look at the one of Kogi, Imo,
Bayelsa.
and Bayelsa, you discover that the electoral violence has decreased dramatically because there is heavy presence of security.
Yes.
So you can imagine it being done by the zones. It will actually reduce to the barest minimum electoral violence. So personally, I'm not in support of off-cycle elections.
Okay.
Even though for some who are business people will tell you that the off-cycle elections goes well with them. Even after the main elections, they're still continuing with business as usual.
But is it realistic to? Do you see this coming to an end anytime soon?
Well, you know, everything is subject to change, and also the National Assembly members. If the laws are amended to cater for these issues, I'm telling you, because we are very peculiar. Nigeria is very peculiar. I heard the analysis when Doro was talking about how unique Plateau is. Different tribes, different religions, but yet it's a place where everybody coexists. I think Nigeria is very dynamic. And our democracy has improved over the years.
Yes.
In fact, in the last 10 years, I would say that the democratic journey of Nigeria has improved dramatically. Because they were, in the past, even before elections is being conducted, results have been announced.
Like in 2003,
in
2007.
Yes, the TUNTBE ballot papers, but the technology is gradually phasing out.
Yes.
In fact, for the past, since 2015, the issue of printing ballot papers do not exist again.
Yes.
Do not exist because the technology is there to speak, even though it is not perfect. But I believe that gradually it will change. So in context of changing the law to cope this situation of off-cycle elections, in the aspect of security, if we are to do it by zones, I want to assure you that the security, because the manpower is very little, when you can imagine the whole country conducting elections just within one season, you will discover that the security, will we be talking about crime and curbing crime, or just for, you can imagine if the criminal discovers that every policeman goes for elections during the election time, then other aspects of criminality will come up. That's why you find violence and also snatching of ballot papers at different ballot boxes in different places, because the security operatives are inadequate.
And then even electoral security itself becomes undermined because the security agencies will have been overstretched.
Definitely.
Instead of having maybe 10 police officers in a particular polling, you can have probably only 2 or thereabout.
Yes.
But Barrister Sir, I'm tempted to ask, you did say something about the fact that time shall determine what happens as far as off-season elections, and former President Jonathan also called for an abolishment, an abolition of these off-cycle elections, because if care is not taken, it will become a tradition, and even presidential elections might eventually also become off-cycle, and we can't imagine that.
Yes, that will be.
But then don't you think that this whole phenomena of off-cycle elections has something to do with the litigious nature of Nigerian political actors, like in Kogi State, where elections, governorship election just took place. Melaye, and other opposition candidates are saying we're going to court. In Bayelsa, opposition candidates are already calling for suspension of elections because, Duo Yediri of the PDP is in the lead.
Yes.
And then in Imo State, where Hope Uzodinma of the APC also won overwhelmingly, opposition parties, especially the PDP, are saying elections did not even happen in Imo State. So politicians Kolbe said something earlier before you walked in. He said, Nigerian politicians love the court. There's this romance between Nigerian politicians and the court. Don't you think it might just be, when are we going to come to that point in time where politicians will learn to accept, defeat and just move on?
Very good contribution. Doro, let me just say something. If you look at the provisions of the Constitution, especially that aspect that says that from the time the person took oath of office, and I would also say that the politicians have contributed negatively when it comes to issues of accepting defeat. I would say that even the tribunals, if it doesn't favor you, the tribunal is biased. If it favors you, the tribunal is greed.
That's what that has been. That has been
the trend. And let me shock you that I've come to discover that a lot of politicians who go to court, even where there's nothing to stand on. They will go to court because they will tell you, we want bargaining power. And some of them are looking for appointments. Some of them are looking for where they will settle and pay them off, even if it doesn't favor them. So I would say that until we begin to look at the interests of Nigeria first, and looking at the interests of the masses, because most times when these people go for litigation, all other channels have been technically considered. For instance, to settle out of court, but they are looking at what they can be able to gain as a result of going to court. So it has become a trend that when you lose elections, even the off-cycle elections that we're talking about, you see people shouting that this happened here, it should be cancelled. I was so shocked that one of the politicians was saying that the elections should be cancelled. So what is the provision of the law that gives you the leverage to go and challenge this in court? So it means that the judicial arm of government becomes non-functional because you are saying that they should just cancel the elections outrightly. So I would say that the politicians have contributed negatively when it comes to accepting defeat. I've seen people who are in advanced climes, people who will walk up to people who have won elections and congratulate them and tell them, we wish you well. That's to tell you that the person also have the interest of the masses. So the issue of service, the person wanted to serve before. Probably the people didn't want him to serve at that particular time, or God has not given him the powers to serve at that time. Like we always say that leadership comes from God.
Buhari had to try 4 times.
So there are people who have tried severally in advanced climes before eventually. Those kind of people would have been prepared for leadership. But a lot of times we find out that our people who come to power are people who are not prepared. That is why they will do everything they want to do humanly possible to get there. And once they get there, they begin to, some people will tell you, we've spent so much money, we need to incorporate what we have spent as far as the elections is concerned. Thereby the masses are left at the mercy of those people.
Barrister, and truly, how does this affect good governance? Now, talking about, you just mentioned something, it's not part of what I was willing to ask you. Now, politicians confess that they spend a lot before emerging as winner, declaring, being declared as winners. Now, having spent that much, don't you think they would want to emerge well for themselves even before they start thinking of
the masses?
The masses. Yes. There are two things. Like I keep saying, I said there are lots of people who go there unprepared. People look at the affluence and all the in quote good things that come with the seats they are occupying, and it becomes difficult for them to look at the masses. All they want to do is like drive big cars. There's one of the songs on Unity FM that is always, if people are really, I'm talking about the politicians.
Mr. Politician.
That's
been a while since you've been here.
The person who sang that song brought a lot of things to bear.
Definitely.
One of the things he was talking about, your fancy car and all those things he was mentioning, and it's actually true because these people go for occasions, show off in occasions. Other young men that are coming in will say, so this thing is this way. So if it is like that, I think I will try. Then begin to look at all corners at all levels to get there. So I would say that has affected good governance to a very large extent because we don't prepare. We have not prepared leaders. We have prepared rulers who would want to rule, but we have not prepared leaders in Nigeria. So that has affected good governance to a very large extent. I would say basically that the politicians know. They are very much aware of what we are saying. In fact, I've come to learn that if somebody might not actually contest elections, that's another dimension. He sponsors a candidate, and I learned that a top politician in Plateau would try to fix people in different places, and those people bring percentages of what is gotten from those people. So tell me, if
politics has practically been commercialized,
yes, so they look at it as a business. If I support you. Recently, we had the rumors of Wike and his
incumbent Fubara.
Yes, people were saying 25% of whatever comes into the state, whether it's true or not. These things are reality. Whether we accept them or not, they are happening. When you find out that politician, somebody who is in seat, who wants to really work for people, we begin to say, okay, let's assume you're having 50 million to work for people, and somebody is asking for 25 million.
Maybe probably because he's a godfather.
He's a godfather to that person. That affects good governance. Technically, it affects good governance, and I'm telling you the truth that a lot of things are going on the ground that we're not even talking about them. So you see that aspect of it also affect governance generally. So these are some of the issues that have actually affected good governance as far as those people who occupy those seats generally.
Okay, we have just about 3 minutes to get done with this segment. But of course, Barrister, I want you to talk about now. What's your take as regards these off-season elections? Like now, you have established that this is a constitutional issue.
Yes,
it's not something we just pray and hope and fold our hands and expect it next week.
Yes,
to be a change thing. But of course, you've also established that is something that people, there has been opinions, people are talking about it, and a lot of considerations also, taken into to being underlined. Now, Barrister, what is your take? Do you think we should go on and on with this, or there's a call?
I think
there should be a call for.
Yes, I think they should. These off-season elections should stop. In my opinion, it's a personal opinion. The reason being the fact, that if someone, let's assume those who have just won this circle elections, they have 4 years. Now, if the constitution is amended, the person who is supposed to spend 4 years will spend less than that 4 years, then he begins to go for litigation as well, for interpretation, as at the time he has taken oath. So I think there should be a level playing ground. Everything is sacrifice. If we are to actually sacrifice for the betterment of Nigeria, those people should consider where it should be done uniformly. And that uniformity, in my opinion, should be by the zones. I still emphasize by the zones, because when you do it by the zones, in terms of security, because Nigeria is very volatile, you can imagine the heavy presence of security in these 3 elections that was just conducted, this governorship election. In my personal opinion, I think the legislators need to this issue of the time the governor took oath of office to also tally with that of the National Assembly. That's why you find out that somebody is even remaining 1 year for the tenure to lapse. Something happens. We've had the same scenario in just not Basa, where elections was conducted so that somebody else can fill the gap. But after 4 years, after that 1 year, elections were still conducted. So if the constitution can be amended in such a way that even if the court declares that you were the rightfully elected person, it shouldn't just be by oath that you took, but it terminates the seat.
So you will only complete the remaining part of the
Then if you have done well, so by that it will also help to remove this issue of off-season elections. And I also agree with the former president of Nigeria, Jonathan. Yes, God forbid, but if it happens, it's something that is possible. That is why people go for litigation. What if the court says you are not the president of Nigeria, this is the right president? From the time he took out of office, then we have off-season presidential elections, and that will be disastrous to Nigeria because of the peculiarities of that seat.
All right. Thank you very much, Barrister, for taking us. The right has been yours. Thank you.
That's been ours.
Yes, and Doro, thank you for still being in the studio. Our viewer and our listener, just stay tuned. We'll go on a short break. When we come back, it's going to be your segment. Thank you.
Mr. Politician, it's good to see you again. It's been so long since you've been here. You had me thinking you were dead. How's your taxpayer mansion? How was your...
Get ready to be entertained and inspired by the incredible stories around the globe. Don't miss out on the excitement. Hello at Work is an ultimate TV program that brings to you the interesting stories and daily happenings worldwide. Join us Mondays and Thursdays, 10 a.m. as we dive into the daily happenings and stories. Tune in and stay. Say hello to the wall as you bring in your ideas, as it is a perfect blend of entertainment and information. Get ready to stay up to date while being entertained.
Unity. Unity TV.
Mr. Politician, it's good to see you again. It's been so long since you've been here.
So much for keeping your dialogue to Unity 93.3 FM and TV this morning. And of course, it has been Unity Train on radio and on TV. Patrice Adamoije remains my name, the anchor of Unity Train this morning. And in the studio, it has been Mr. Shaibu Doro, an in-house analyst. And of course, it will gladden your heart to get to know that Doro happens to be the producer of Unity Train as well. And again in the studio, it has been Barrister Sam Talks. And together we've been talking about issues as it concerns politics with the topic of seasoned elections in Nigeria matters arising. He has made his submission. And now it's time for you to begin to call, and let's hear from you. What's your take as regard some elections that come at other time other than the general elections that we know? Okay, if you want to be a part of the conversations, the studio line remains 07032353315. Just call, tell me your name, where you're calling from, that's location. And then you go on. In a minute, let's hear what you have as your own take. And remember also that on this platform, we don't take comments that would, deteriorate or undermine efforts to bring about peaceful coexistence or consolidate, efforts made towards building peaceful coexistence on the plateau. And so you may want to stick to the vision of Unity 93.3 FM. And again, remember that comments made on these platforms and not in any way the position of Unity 93.3 FM as our device boots for me to pick your calls. Let me now allow Barrister to just give us one or two things he feels would want to say concerning this topic.
I could be,
yes,
with your permission. I've been itching to it. Just, when you were asking him to say something as a closing thought, it just occurred to me that I need to actually ask Barrister this. You did say something earlier about we said something earlier, or I asked a question earlier about the litigious nature of Nigerian politicians. Is there something the court can do to stop itself from being taken for granted?
Yes.
A situation where people just keep going. I feel that if politicians would always, rush to court, even, on, trivial, issues and things,
yes,
I feel that
I think
the court will be...
It's a very good dimension, though. Recently, I think on the plateau, on this National Assembly elections that was set aside by the Court of Appeal, INEC appealed. I remember INEC appealed about 4 appeals.
I think it has one of the cases is that of Langtan North and South.
Yes, very well,
between Venman Bulus and Benilar.
Yes, I think when INEC appealed, the court descended heavily on INEC. The reason was just simple.
The court showed anger.
Yes, and was able to slam about ₦1 million costs against the lawyer who handled the matter.
The INEC lawyer?
Yes. The reason being the fact that when it comes to issues of internal party issues, like issues of structure, like issues of qualification, INEC shouldn't be seen to be descending into the arena. So the court, times without number, in the case of Hope Uzodinma versus INEC, it was clearly stated that the commission, that INEC should be neutral when it comes to issues of litigation. Recently, again, the Supreme Court upturned itself by stating that's the 2003 elections case, that is PDP versus Uche. In that case, it was clear that the commission is an active participant. So it should state what happened exactly when it comes to pre and post elections.
Matters.
Yes. You see, the law is changing, but the law also looks at frivolous cases. If you bring a frivolous case before the courts, the tribunal will definitely slam costs on the lawyers.
And then Tafe was also fined 50 million. I think here at the Just Election Petition.
I'm not aware of that, but it's possible. But that's to say the frivolity of the case. The court has the powers to also slam costs on the person to serve as a deterrent. But I think that will also go a long way. Then also to cope up this issue you are talking about, I think things should be defined clearly. Like the example I gave on the plateau. Let the party who is being accused of not having, or whom the judgment stated that they don't have structure, should be the ones to appeal, so that it will be that I'm trying to state my case, not that a neutral party that is supposed to adjudicate between, like the referee or the umpire appealing, even though the Supreme Court has changed that notion of neutrality. As far as you are neutral, you must be able to state what happened exactly.
Right.
So those are some of the issues.
Oh, thank you very much. At this point, let's pick your calls and hear what you have for us in the studio. Hello, good morning.
Good morning, my brother.
Thank you very much. Who is with me?
This is Justa from Institution.
All right, just please go on in a minute.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
It's very, very unfortunate where democracy is happening in this country.
All right.
And I don't really actually know. Is it one party system they're trying to impose us in the country? You know why I'm making this comment this morning?
Please go on. Tell me.
These things are going. You know, in Imo State, I'm from Imo State. Because something may be talking, you sit on your comfort zone, and you be talking of what is happening in another state where you don't even know anything about. I don't want to talk about Kogi because I'm not from Kogi or Bayelsa.
Please go on in a minute.
You know that on Saturday, they had this election. Many youth, they take them inside the booth. They will not even go out to vote. I'm telling you, intimidation by the governor of the state. I'm telling you, in Imo State, if you make comments about another political party, except APC, I'm telling you, maybe you know, close their eye in Imo State.
Okay.
If insecurity is happening inside my local government, in Masu local government, that's where I come from.
All right.
So it's very, very unfortunate. What these people, and let me tell you the presenter in the house, you know my annoyance.
Tell me.
I didn't think APC as a party, they are doing well to Nigerians. I will be happy with them. But the most rough and dangerous thing in it that everything has fallen upside down.
Okay.
You cannot eat well, you cannot sit well, you cannot even pay your children school fees, but they still want to remain in power. Good morning.
Thank you. Thank you very much. He sounded emotional, but I could see he was able to still manage it, and yet, he was, he was still, abiding to the rules. So thank you so much for managing your emotions. And hello, good morning.
Hello, good morning.
Thank you very much.
Good morning, Dodo.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Ambassador Abdullahi calling from
Abdullahi Rocky Boy, it's good to have you. Go on in a minute, please. Yes.
Parisa, you said it was. I'm really happy that you clarify some issues and explain.
All right. Okay.
The Almighty Allah increase your knowledge for you.
Amen.
Amen.
You see, in Nigeria, at times, I'm wondering whether you know that they defeat you, you don't have any case to court. A lawyer will tell you, say, you get a good case because they want to earn a lot of money. I'm telling you, they know that. So these are people saying that please and please.
Yes.
You understand?
Yes.
At times, you know, you don't have good case. I'm telling you, a lawyer will come and say, it was chapter 3 by Shiskaza. You have to. You understand? You know my language. The kind of language that you speak for me, I will totally complete 100%. And at the end of the day, if I go there, I will notice that will not pass.
Yes.
You understand?
Yes.
And lastly, please, you see, we in Nigeria now, anything that we are doing in terms of election, religion, no, I'm not happy about that. Now let me tell you, we are all suffering in Nigeria. The people are not suffering, they are not much. But now even APC are doing the needful for the people in
Thank you very much.
I
And that
think,
is very
Barrister
true.
Sam and his colleagues are being indicted. You will always tell us, yeah, we will have a good case, even where we don't.
Those things are subject to interpretation.
Yes, and that's why you have a good case. All right, let's pick one more call. Hello, good morning.
Hello, good morning.
Thank you.
This is you, the Radio Senator, calling from Apata.
Radio Senator, it's good to have you. Go on in a minute, please.
Good morning, my brother. Well, I have to align myself with the position of your guest in the studio.
All right.
He has spoken very well.
Okay.
You see, I'm not supposed to be on the background or the backside when the issue of and the participants in an election comes. There's supposed to be a lot of black. But what it knows, what the competence people have been at all. You look at the election. So I need to ensure that I was the court will slam more than that.
Thank you.
On the issue of election, you know
Oh my. Oh, Radio Senator, honestly, I think he would need to call us back. 070-3235-3315 is the line. It wasn't stable for a senator, and Radio Senator for that matter, to have such unstable network. So please, we apologize. You may need to call us back. We'll appreciate if you do. Hello, good morning.
Hello, good morning.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you very much. My name is Sadiq Umar. I'm calling from Johnson.
Okay, Sadiq Umar, in a minute, please go on.
Yes, I will commend the director in the house. They are performing very, very well.
All right.
And actually, they are both a lot of people pertaining our election and electoral system
All right.
relating to the judiciary. You see, when we talk about election in Nigeria at large, actually, people with hope initially from the INEC. That is those people that are organizing the election, because of the lack of trust that the people have with the INEC. And this lack of trust has become when INEC has based on promises and those promises have not been made. And now secondly, we now see how the election is going to be conducted. You see, when election is conducted in Nigeria, you see the power of those conventions always takes place. You see that those that are in power always try to look at the connect those territories that the election takes place. This is very, very unfortunate. But we are calling on the judiciary because there is no election that will go in Nigeria without taking it to the judiciary. Let the judiciary look at the reason of the election, that is the democratic reason, that's the vote of the people. That's what we are hoping the judiciary to look. And the INEC, if the INEC is declaring the announcement of every winner, we say that the winner has gone through the law and he has been going through the rules and regulations of Nigeria.
Thank you.
So, the candidate have not to go through anything after election. I think INEC should go by the only nomination of the candidate at the first place.
Thank you very much.
Before we can get it done in our electoral system. Thank you very much.
Oh, thank you very much. And now on our Facebook page, this one says, good morning, a gentleman in the studio. You guys are saying it the way it is. I believe democratically we are growing in this country, and I hope the process will continue uninterrupted. For those states that conducted off-cycle election, I wish them better and progressive governance. Barrister, God bless you richly, sir. Okay, to Barrister there. This one say good morning, and it was this one was sent by our Peaceman Adam. Peaceman, thank you. And this one from Godwin Sule say good morning, presenter. I'm not watching you people, but I want to comment. Sorry, how can we move Nigeria forward from the hardship we are today? Can our president do something magic about our fuel subsidy removal. Thank you. God will slay. Barrister is here and he's going to make comment on that. Okay, this one is coming from Aminu Abdullahi Shuaibu. He said, good morning, Kubi Shuaibu Toro. I'm watching you live from Ricos new layout. Just always my pleasure to be with your wonderful programs. Keep it up. We always pray Nigeria will be better by God's grace. I mean, yeah, thank you so much. And this one says, good morning, Mr. Presenter. I'm watching you from Kamba Kebbi. Wow, thank you.
All the way from
yes, and it's Garba Nahali Kamba Kebbi. It's nice to have you watch all the way from Kebbi. And this one is from Joseph Sambo. Say, keep up the good work. I'm watching you live from just east. All right, it's good to have you. And another one says, I am watching from Kano. Wow, lovely. And it's from Mustafa Ibrahim Kan Rufi. All right. Hello, good morning.
Good morning, Dr.
Yeah, morning, Mr. Dewey.
Good morning.
Good morning, amen.
God continue to bless you.
Amen.
You see, my take this morning on this uncertain election.
Yes.
I want to congratulate you for our work.
All right.
In a situation, election politicians are never give up in election. That's what this brother knows. Except they look that there is no any way out before they can accept it. That's not how it's supposed to be. See, I used to say this always, that King David was not a leader before he was able to defeat Goliath. I will not stop saying this on this class. You see, the reason why I'm saying this is that we will not work together to make Nigeria forward. They will remain in the same position. You see, if the judiciary are trying, if we don't have the judiciary, I wonder where we are. So people would have taken law into their hands. So my problem is that the judiciary, I think they are doing the right thing at the wrong time. So when the judgment is being passed, people are on pension in the state and across the nation. But we will not stop to pray for our leaders.
All right.
We continue to pray for them because they are not our makers, they are our leaders.
All right.
How are we supposed to do? Our leaders in public office can be a predatory place. Then the meeting would have been done. Please let me give an instance like you being a class rep in school. You regret it because you see the responsibility will just be too much on you.
Thank you.
You understand what I'm saying?
Yes.
So our leaders need to be the meeting and stimulate the character of good Lord Jonathan.
All right.
Who is the blood of the people in Nigeria is not worth its agenda and vision.
Oh, thank you very much. Thank you very much, Adeomi. He's speaking in line with Professor Bamayi, who would say, let's make political offices unattractive by just making it just as you pay the classroom teacher, so you pay all the politicians. So let's see how many of them will still be standing, vying for
without those millions of naira, undeserved allowances and all of those things.
All right, good morning. This may be our last caller today. Hello, good morning. Hello, good morning. Oh, mine. It's very sad, and that's the much we can take from our callers this morning. We'll just let Barrister to respond to some of this. I'm sure you would also want to say something about what was it I said you would?
Yes. First of all, how are you going to defend your colleagues against the allegation that sometimes you tell people, well, they have a good case, even where you know they don't?
You see, the lawyers don't really go to meet the politicians. The politicians meet them. Just like if you are sick, you go to the doctor. The same thing with the politicians. So if you come, it is expected that the person needs solution. And the law, it's dynamic. People can interpret the law the way they understand the law. And there are that's why there is hierarchy of courts. Nigeria is actually doing very well when it comes to hierarchy of courts. So that when you are aggrieved, you go to a particular. There's a saying in law that there must be end to litigation. So whether our colleagues are giving them the right or the wrong advice is subject to interpretation. But I feel that just like the way a sick person goes to see a doctor, that's the same way a litigant sees his lawyer. Then Radio Senator made a very profound suggestion, even though the line was not very clear. He was aligning with the fact that INEC should also be an active participant. Recently, I was before a tribunal, and we had 3 judgments in our favor. But the chairman of the panel said something very profound. He said the laws need to be amended for INEC to defend their elections, not the person who won the elections. That was his profound statement.
Since INEC actually
is the one that conducted the election. So
announced,
ordinarily, INEC should be the one. That's what the radio senator was trying to put across. And I think it's a very good thing, even though I stood up and I said, there's a provision of the law that says, he that alleges should prove. It's just that when you take me to court, I go ahead proving it. You know, it becomes difficult because it becomes, you have shifted the burden from the person who is supposed to prove the case to somebody who was taken to court. So you see, there's dynamics. But actually, if the Electoral Act will put it in such a way that the commission is the one that conducted the elections, ordinarily, by maybe generally, it should be the commission that should defend that elections. That was an advocacy by the chairman of that panel. And I think if the legislators will look at it that way too, it might help. So that INEC, whatever you do on the field, INEC will be more careful, knowing too well that they will be the ones to defend the elections, not relying on the person who won the election to prove the case.
I think I don't know much about that, but I feel that will help INEC to always be mindful and careful
of their actions.
Yes. So we are coming to the end of it. Doro may have one or two words before I come back to Barrister to say his final words.
Yeah, God bless Nigeria. God bless Plateau State, and then. I think that at the end of the day, we've always said, and we'll keep saying it, could be we're all, actors in the Nigeria Plateau project. Let's give peace a chance, and without peace and harmony, we will continue to cycle around the same mountain like the proverbial biblical Israelites. We don't want to continue to cycle around the same mountain. We want to make them. Could be talking about Hamas and Israel. I feel the international community should do something about Palestine and Israel. I think that Israel is actually going overboard in exacting revenge. And I think that the killing of 10,000 civilians, in the name of retaliation is extreme. And, at the end of the day, there's some need for some sort of dialogue and talking and discussion and compromises and ground shifting. And that can't happen if there is no ceasefire. I think Israel should down tools for now and give chance for some sort of dialogue.
Okay, there's a take there from the room.
Yes, I want to say something very profound that I have seen happen on the plateau after the delivering of judgments and the National Assembly issues, the elections that was conducted. I was so surprised to see that people were going out to demonstrate. Yes, there's freedom of you can demonstrate, but people should. There are a lot of other ways this can be done. The court gives judgments based on evidence and facts. These two things are very critical for a court to arrive at a particular decision, whether it is right or it is wrong. There are also mechanisms of challenging those judgments. For instance, you can also come by seeking the leave of court for a review of that particular judgment. Instead of going to the street, the court is not Father Christmas to give what was not asked in facts and evidence. So I would want to say that, and also there's a lot of process even available in the Constitution, where you can also recall members that you are not comfortable with. So instead of it's not helping our because no matter how you demonstrate, does not change the pronouncements of the court. So you must be able to follow the right things to be done. So I would want to say generally that as Plateau people, as Nigerians, we should be very objective. Not that some politicians will couch us as young people to go on the streets with just maybe 2,000, 1,000 and demonstrate against the judgment of the court. It is strange.
Which won't change anything.
It won't change anything. But you can also come by way of review.
All right, thank you very much, Barrister, for always coming when we call.
It's a pleasure.
Yes, by the way, Doro, same to you, sir.
It's a pleasure.
Yes, our viewer and our listener, thank you so much for always tuning to listen and also make your contributions. We apologize. There's many of you whose call we were not able to pick. And again, I want to appreciate every crew member who made it possible to have a successful productions. Tomorrow is going to be another beautiful day, and we look forward to being with you again. From me, Beatrice Ademoyeji, say bye-bye for now. Thank you.
Mr. Politician, it's good to see you again. It's been so long since you've been here.